Today's tip is going to be about debt. Actually, two tips. The first one is detouring debt, and the second one is if you have debt, destroying debt. When I say detour debt, that means go around it rather than going into debt. As the Bible says, the borrower is a slave to the lender. We don't want to be slaves. By the way, too, when you talk about debt, I believe we ought to avoid it like the plague. You know, the plague killed lots and lots of people, and debt, if you think about it, debt is similar to death in the sound, especially if you have a European accent, so keep that in mind. By the way, mortgage, you know what mortgage means? Mortgage literally means death pledge, if you look at the etymology, so think about that one. Although that brings up this. Mortgage is probably about the only debt most of us will not get away without having. That's a big one, but you know what? There have been people who have done without a mortgage. In other words, when they were young, they stayed at home as long as they could. They saved their money. When they get out of the house, they got a very meager apartment, saved everything they could until they could buy their own home. So that's even possible. But let's say you're asking, how do I detour debt? We go back to an earlier presentation, and that is simply don't buy anything you can't afford. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. Go around debt. That's the simplest way to do it. Ask yourself, can I afford, do I have enough money to pay for this? If I don't, I really should not be paying for it on credit. Again, mortgage may be the only one. So simply avoid debt by not buying things you cannot afford. Now, let's say you're in debt right now and you want to destroy that debt. How do you go about it? You may have a number of payments. You may have a car payment. You may have a school payment. You may have your credit card. What do you do to destroy debt? You pay off your smallest debts first. How do you do that? You scrimp as much as you can. If you need to, you cut off the cable TV. You scrimp as much as you can. Find the debt that gives the payment that is lowest. Okay? In other words, your lowest payment. Let's say you have a number of debts. Your lowest payment is $50 a month for whatever that is. Maybe that's the minimum payment on your credit card. What you do is put all your energy into saving, scrimping. Maybe you have to eat beans and rice for a few months. That's okay. You can live on beans and rice, and you may even be healthier than what you're eating now. So you scrimp until you can gather together enough money to pay off that lowest payment in debt you have. Once you pay that off, let's say it's $50 a month, do you know what the next thing is you do? Wrong. You celebrate. What you do is you go out and you do some small celebration. Maybe it's get ice cream and with your family, and you say, the reason we're celebrating because I paid off debt, I did something that most of the population never does. So you celebrate, and then what you do is the rest of the money you have left now that you're not paying that $50 a month, you take that $50 that you were paying on your debt and you set it aside to add to the next largest debt you have. So let's say your next largest debt is $100. Well, now you're going to pay $150 on it because you now have that $50 you used to be paying on the lower debt. You now put $150 per month in paying off that debt and any other money you can scrounge together, and pay it on the principal if you can. And when you pay off that debt, celebrate, and then take that $150 and put that on your next debt. That's a way to destroy debt. So remember, you want to avoid debt like the plague. Debt kills. And so if you're not in debt, you want to detour debt. Go around it. Don't go into debt. If you have debt, you want to destroy debt. Do that, and you'll be on your way to financial stability and security.